Dear students, good evening. Welcome to Law Excellence IAS. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 28th December 2020. The first article for discussion is Limited Partnerships. Congress left, how they have aligned over history. Let us try to understand. Congress represented centrist politics by and large, and Congress also has left-oriented and also right-oriented leadership. So it is an umbrella that has got different thought processes. It is an umbrella. And when we go to left parties, you know that they are purely socialistic oriented. In India, left is involved with democratic process. It wants to bring in a change through democratic process across the world that is missing. In this scenario, left and Congress, these were two major political parties in the initial days. They represented two major political poles. But in Calcutta today, that is in West Bengal today, in the changed scenario, they are getting aligned. So Trinamool Congress, it was originally a split faction of the Congress. So it is a split faction of Congress. And then the rightist party, that is BJP, it is trying to sweep the political spectrum in West Bengal. In this case, Trinamool Congress, it has taken up the space created or vacuum created by Communist Party. Now, Congress and Communist Party coming together, they want to create an alternative in West Bengal. In this case, if they split any votes, they are going to split the votes of TMC. That is providing an advantage to BJP. The biggest advantage to BJP is not the consolidation of its own votes, but also the split in the opposition vote. And second, let us see the Kerala. In Kerala, Congress and left, these are the main, ruling and opposition parties. It means that in Kerala, these two parties are competing. And on the other side, in West Bengal, they are aligning. So it sends a wrong signal to the voters. So because of this particular thing, BJP is expected to strengthen in Kerala. If an ideology fight or ideological fight has to be there, the Congress and left, if they are partially aligning, and this limited partnership will prove danger for both in the long run. That is the essence of this article. Let's go to the China story, the facade cracks for China. So China, if you observe, moved away from Deng era significantly. If you see the Deng Xiaoping era, which has prevailed in China till Xi Jinping has come to power, he clearly stated that create low profile, don't try to show your leadership, hide your strength, bide your time. It means that you have to play an underdog, and at the same time you have to achieve beyond expectations. This is what Deng's philosophy is. Today, in the era of Xi Jinping, this is all changing. He wants China to be assertive, expansionist, and hold the national pride. In this context, the space for dissent is decreasing in China. How can we say it is about Hong Kong? In Hong Kong protest, China has used its might. National security law in Hong Kong or extradition of criminals from Hong Kong to mainland China, all have attracted the protests. With iron fist, it was able to control them. And the second thing is, Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province, it is also, there are complaints of human rights violations there. And border tensions with almost every country, China today have border tensions. And China wants to solve them with its muzzle rather than with diplomacy. And this all appears to be the strength of China. Beyond this facade, China has real challenges. The COVID-19 proven that China lost its trust among the nations. And the second, China's economic might is the reason for its political might or assertiveness today. So the countries wants to hit on this economic might. You can observe that US is talking about decoupling with China. And second, China is going to face a challenge to its strategy that is called export-led growth strategy. It means as international markets are expected to shrink, its overcapacities, that is greater capacities which it has created, is going to hunt them down. So export-led growth strategy. And then we have another thing that is called domestic demand. Recently, Xi Jinping is talking about dual circles or two circle policy. What is this two circle policy? One is export-led growth strategy, which is called international circle, and the domestic circle that is creating of local demand. So these two circles, twin circles policy he announced. It means economically something is not stable in China. And further to this, Hong Kong, Taiwan, these are posing new challenges. And America is developing relationships with Taiwan and is also providing for the military support. And India did not bend down as expected by China on the border. This clearly shows that China's international diplomacy assertiveness, which is also described as wolf warrior approach, this all is not yielding for its goodwill on the international dais. That is the essence of article. And China is not inviting any kind of dissent within the country. We have an example. That is Ant Group, which is held by Mr. Ali Baba. He criticized the Chinese economic policy, saying that China's banks are behaving more like local money lenders. After that, China started haunting Alibaba and its groups, and today it is not public listed. Almost $37 billion public listing is being stopped. So this clearly shows that any dissent will invite an action from the state. The next is essential dry run. The vaccine is on its way, and emergency approval use is going to come for India's developed vaccine soon. In this case, India has to do a dry run, and it has already started in the states of Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, etc. What is meant by dry run? Testing the systems, testing the software, everything, processes. This is what is the intention of dry run. Why it is essential? It's a massive exercise. 30 crore people will be given vaccine. It means total 60 crore doses have to be administered. That's where a clear data maintenance and follow up on adverse reactions is essential. And second, if you go for this article towards an effective vaccination distribution policy, vaccine distribution policy is a massive public health exercise. Then what is the objective of taking vaccine? There are two here. One is to stop or to protect from disease, and the second is to prevent the spread of disease, obviously. So when we give to the healthcare workers, we are reaching or fulfilling both the objectives. Let us go further. Who has to administer or who has to take up this responsibility? So government plus private sector. If government takes care of the poor and marginalized, if private sector is allowed, it can take of the people who are affordable. So why can't we allow both? That is the question over here. In that case, there are two advantages if both are allowed. The government resources can be kept aside for poor and marginalized. It means that the government funds can be saved. And also availability of the vaccine for the poor and marginalized from the side of the government are increasing. So that's why let us also bring in private players so that rich and affordable can take the necessary vaccine from the private players. That's how we can put it as. Notes from an year of unease. 2020 is seen as an unease year by everyone. We have many challenges in it. The pandemic has really created challenges to us. In this case, 2021, as we enter this year, what shall be our priority? One is healthcare, and then COVID-19 handling it is the first priority. And the second thing is we have a standoff with China on the Ladakh segment. We need to immediately address this China standoff. Third is economy situation is going from bad to worse, then recovery path has to be taken up. And job creation, if it suffers, in the era of demographic dividend for India, is going to create a unique challenge for this country. So how to create jobs for millions and millions of the people has to be thought over. And finally, constitutional institutions are facing a strange tension like never before. Bringing back the constitutionalism, constitutional propriety, and respect for the constitutional bodies is essential to protect our body politic. These are the suggestions given by Mr. M.K. Narayan. Next is, on Nepal, India prefers to watch from sidelines. India has always been criticized in Nepal as involving in its internal affairs. In this case, India is not involving with the ongoing crisis in Nepal. What is the ongoing crisis in Nepal? Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli, he has recommended for the dissolution of lower house, and President did that. In this case, K.P. Sharma Oli wants to go for elections, and Prachanda wants to create an alternative from the president. Now Prachanda is looking for China's help. KP Sharma Oli, who is in crossheads with India, is looking for India's support. And he is sending olive branch towards India. In this situation, India don't want to get unduly involved and gain the criticism from them. Unlike this, China is getting involved itself and India is watching the things from sideline. This is definitely a policy shift from Indian side. Next is inner line permit is the center's gift to Manipur. What is inner line permit? If you remember Article 19 1D, it provides you for the freedom of movement. It means you can move freely throughout the territory of India. Inner line permit is a restriction on this freedom of movement. It is to protect the local tribes' culture and their livelihoods. Inner line permit means to cross and enter into the region beyond that. The permission and authorization is necessary. Initially, this inner line permit concept has come from the Bengal Frontier Regulation Act. Today, it is there in Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, and the demands are also there in Meghalaya. So this inner line permit is meant to protect indigenous culture, livelihoods, traditions, etc. That is the point we need to remember. Finally, Telangana news. There is a word called regulated farming. In this regulated farming, government will suggest the farmers what crop to be sown and government will take back or procure that particular crop. This is called regulated farming. Now, Telangana government initially took up this regulatory farming and today it stated that it is administratively very difficult and implementation challenges are there. That's why it has dropped this regulated farming and asked for the farmers to take up the crop which they like. These are the articles for today. Thank you very much. This is Dr. Rambabu signing off for Law Excellence IAS. Thank you.